Good afternoon, Boomi fans, and welcome back to beautiful Dallas, Texas. We're here midway through day one of our 2 days of coverage of Boomi World 2025. My name's Savannah Peterson, here with the wonderfully nodding and energetic Paul this afternoon.
I am very much energetic today, yes.
You know, Paul, this is the most I've laughed on a show in a while, and I think you have something to do with that, so I just want to say thank you for that.
Of course, it's been fun, it's been great. A lot of things happening here, a lot of things to be excited about, so yeah, let's just jump right in.
Let's do it. Without further ado, Reji and Reetwick, thank you so much for being on the show with us today.
It's a pleasure being here.
You're looking super sharp. I was just commenting on this. It's like you secretly texted in the morning to find that perfect hue of blue. I'm digging it. Talking about your fashion, because we're going to be talking about fashion today on the show. Reji, I think this is the first time we've had G-III on the show.
That's
so
true, yeah.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the company? I'm very excited about the segment if it's not obvious.
Okay. G-III is a global leader in fashion industry. When I joined the company 2 decades ago, it was like a $350 million company. Today it's a $3.5 billion company with a tremendous growth within a short time of period. Yep.
That's the kind of growth everybody likes to hear about.
And it is under the able leadership of Maurice Goldfarb and the other teams there. And we have very strategic partnership with, and we have a very good ecosystem that is enabling us to grow like that with all the, we do from the designing, prototyping, manufacturing, supply chain management, through, marketing, order fulfillment, warehousing, everything we do.
You do everything?
We do everything.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
That's really amazing because when I look at our research, we see that in the next 2 years, we're seeing that production applications using AI, it's going to be growing from 500 to 1,000 production applications at the edge alone. So from a retail perspective, processing information at the edge, it's really starting to explode, right? And the challenge with that is a lot of times the edge locations they don't have like technical resources, right? They don't have people to do the work and such. So I think when we look at the Boomi platform and what Boomi is doing here, it's harmonizing a lot of the different data sources to allow you to, to do that rationalization of data and information. How is that impacting your organizations?
It's like, we had a legacy system a few years back, and everything was there on the legacy system based on AS100. And
good old AS400.
As
right?
the growth happens, we have to be more agile and more adaptive.
Yeah.
And we are bringing in more and more brands, So we need to be on top of everything like that. So we moved many of the components from the legacy system into the SaaS applications. It is, on the cloud. And many of these SaaS applications are multi-tenant, which means it can be shared across our partners.
Yeah.
For example, we have a vendor that is, we are placing a purchase order to a vendor. We push our data to a platform called Nexus, and the vendors also can come and look at the data there and modify it if required. For example, if there is a delay in the delivery or something like that, they can say that, okay, it is going to be delayed. And that comes, flows into our backend system, and the data is visible everywhere, almost real time.
And everyone's on the same page, which I think is one of the biggest challenges everyone's facing right now. That's why integration is so key. Yeah. Reetwick, tell me a little bit about the Infosys side of this and how you guys have been partnering and working together for the last couple of years.
Yeah, so it's a very unique story. He spoke about the complexity that's there in the landscape, right? With legacy on one side, and a motive or an intention of moving on to something new, right? For a company like G-III, it's not easy. Think of the various brands, the various nuances associated with each of the brands, each of the suppliers, the way they work, right? So for us, the first thing was to talk to them, understand the strategy. Where do you want to be, right? We don't want to take a giant leap, right? Step by step, where do you want to be, right? So we went ahead, assessed the landscape, right? We identified those low-hanging fruits which will give you that quick benefit, quick ROI, right? So we went step by step, and we identified Boomi as the platform because that's a real unification platform, right?
Right.
It gets data from all the sources, it does the right presentation, it does the entire data management pipeline, and that's the power of the Boomi One platform that's there, right?
Right.
And think of it, today in the stage where they are, tomorrow they can start building on top of that platform, right? What Boomi platform, they can build now the agentic AI solutions and everything else, right? So it's a step-by-step process, understanding the current complexities, defining the change that the organization will go through after adopting Boomi. That's a big piece of the puzzle, right? And then taking the first step, moving from that entire hypothesis to a real example of a real case where they prove out the ROI, they prove out the business value, and they also prove the adoption of the platform within the organization, because that's where it now starts moving into an enterprise-grade platform, right?
Right.
So it's a stage-wise journey.
And
I'll put it that way.
moving from a monolithic architecture to a more
Absolutely.
modular architecture really allows for that portability.
Yes.
And an alignment, from our research perspective, we find that there's 20% of respondents in a recent research study that we did of 847 respondents. 20% said it was critical that their applications were portable because they want to build and be more modular.
Yes, absolutely.
67% said it was very important. So 87% of respondents indicate like application portability and moving from a monolithic architecture to a
Absolutely.
modular. Moving up to that microservices
Great point, Paul.
makes it a big factor.
And that's where the entire concept of a composable architecture comes in, a composable enterprise comes in, right? You reuse the modules, right? You build those business services that are required for functioning some critical functions in the organization, right?
Yeah.
And then you build on top of it, right? So G-III is going that way. They are adopting that same journey. They're defining that architecture in a way which is composable, right? And you continuously build on it, reuse it, build on it, scale. Yeah. Right, that's the other aspect that you need. I mean, G-III is a huge scale, so absolutely. That's what the research is, and you're right, that's where every organization is going through.
Yeah.
I'm curious, I mean, you're talking about at scale, lots of fashion brands. I mean, I had AI design my nails for the show, which is very exciting. I very much care about my clothes. I'm kind of obsessed with them when it comes to the on-camera stuff. You've got a lot of moving pieces within your system, not just the brands that you have and the licensed brands, but like quite physically, there's articles of clothing and lots of goods that are going through that. What are some of the challenges that you hope, or we'll call them challenges, that you hope our current technological revolution, this agentic AI moment that we're having, what do you hope these new tools help you solve to be able to deliver better for your community?
So as I mentioned, we have many brands.
Yeah.
Right now we have 30 brands, either owned or licensed. And each brand will have its own product category. For example, if you take DKNY, we have the shoes, we have the dress, we have men's clothing, men's coats, sportswear, everything, right?
Yeah.
So it is like, multiple times of this 30. And each one of them is competing with each other, right? So we have to segregate our data in such a way that you have a pyramid view of things, like the top management should be able to see everything, whereas the lower layer, they are privy to only the sector they belongs to, like that. So it adds some complexities into it from the data layer itself.
Well, also with you having 30 brands as a multinational, you have probably different parent-child relationships, right? So you have maybe some viewership of the overarching data, but then you have to have that isolation on the individual brands. Is that
right.
accurate?
Yeah.
So that requires data management and data complexity issues as well, right?
Yes. And it is spread across the globe. Like, we have presence in the Middle East, we have presence in Europe, Korea, China, North America, like in Canada and USA, everywhere. Like
You're everywhere, yeah.
So
there's a lot of challenges, though, that even come down to the data layer of that between governance and a lot of different things.
Right.
You've got a complex job.
we have, a lot of this B2B business as well, and B2C business. The business is evolving now. Like, earlier, there will be a customer who is buying maybe 10,000 units at a time, but today, it could be just one single item that they're ordering. Our warehouse system should be equipped with that. to cater for that.
To be able to ebb and flow with that scale, or a
Yeah.
spike in Instagram sales. I was talking to Shopify about this 2 weeks ago. When you have these surges, it's almost like a Black Friday, Cyber Monday. If something goes viral or a celebrity wears a thing or whatever.
Our digital presence is on Shopify. We are
Yeah.
using Shopify for that. Yeah.
I feel like everyone is at this point, which is very exciting. Curious, I'm wondering if you're seeing a lot of trends. You work with a ton of different partners and a ton of different tools. What are some of the consistent challenges that you're seeing across the board with your customers? And also, on the back of that, if you could wave a magic wand and teach them all something right now today, what do you wish everyone understood just a little bit better about this transformation?
Okay, so it's 2 questions in one.
Yes,
right?
I'm giving you a bonus.
Yeah, so firstly, in my conversation with most of the CXOs who are actually looking to modernize, right? And modernization is driven by 2 things. One is they really have a legacy system which they want to move out of. Second is a cost takeout, right? The current system could be very costly for them, right? Though it may not be a legacy platform, right? So how do you address both? The solutions could be very different, but then our first step is to really understand the business objective and create that business case for that organization, for the modernization or the cost takeout initiative, right? That's the first thing that we do. Second is, which platform fits, right? Given Boomi's power in terms of low code, in terms of that one integrated platform where today you might just focus on API, but tomorrow, what about data management? What about your EDI management? What about your AI agentic, right? Boomi is the only platform in the market today which ties everything together into one platform, right? So obvious, the natural choice is Boomi, right? So business case, then Boomi, do the first hypothesis, right? And do the first pilot. Prove out the fitment of Boomi in the organization, prove out the business case, and then also define the entire journey, entire roadmap. Because complex organizations, they don't go through a change in day one, right? It's years, right? But how you shape that journey for them is very important. And that's where that entire aspect of change management, scale with Boomi. The fourth and the most important piece is what we do for customers. We have a lot of tools like the entire agentic AI migration toolkit, which we call as anything to Boomi, right? Which kind of accelerates this entire journey. We kind of saved almost 75% of the effort and cost for a customer moving from their legacy platform to Boomi, right? And it's as recent of in the last 4 months, right? So that's acceleration.
Impressive.
Yeah, that
acceleration.
acceleration, using our tool, which is built on Boomi, by the way, it helps customers realize the business benefits much quicker, right? It gives them the courage and confidence to continue that journey.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's so important right now in this emotional moment when people are a little nervous about the spend we're going to do. So what do you wish you could tell them all at once?
Absolutely. So the magic wand is, don't worry. Take the first step. We are there to help you with the entire model, entire approach, and we can make it a self-funded modernization initiative for an organization.
Yeah, I want to touch.
Who doesn't want to hear that? I love that. Yeah, go ahead.
That's great. I want to touch a little bit more. You kind of glossed over one point that I think is a critical point to understand, especially with the adoption of creation of a new application. As you start modernizing, like you said, CXOs are like, their number one goal is to modernize, right?
Yes.
They need to modernize. They typically run into skill gap issues and complexity.
Absolutely.
Those are the 2 things they run into.
Yes.
So they work either with their bench, and their bench is typically not there because they don't have enough people to keep the wheels on the bus as it is. So they work with service delivery partners like yourselves, right? Now, the big factor that you touched on was the low-code platform.
Yes.
When you start empowering your lines of business to write their own applications, you can have the professional developers actually doing the innovation. And the lines of business can now be empowered to write their own applications to work on their own space. That's a big, big difference from a few years ago.
Yes. That's a big shift that has happened. Okay, gone are the days where you need a troop to build an application, right?
Right.
You can do with 3 people. You can quickly turn around an API. I'm just giving a real life example. In 4 weeks, end to end in 4 weeks, you can make an API go live. Right, that's the power of low code.
That's impressive, man.
And that is how
we're moving so fast
and move fast, and that's how you bring in the entire savings. Right.
I have practical experience on that. Like, I mean,
I was just going to ask you if what he said is valid in your experience.
For any API, we used to write our own code in the back end and use that. But now with this no code architecture here, Boomi, we can develop things in a fraction of a time that we used to develop through coding.
And now you have your organizations, they can vibe code, try some things out, see how that's working, and then implement that vibe code into production code as needed, right? So it's like, it's really about making the team more productive. As I kind of led the conversation saying, 500 to 1,000 production workloads at the edge location in the next 2 years. That's not going to be the development team, the production development team doing that. So that's a lot.
No, it is a lot. You're absolutely right about that. So I'm glad you're validating this narrative. No, I think that's important. And to your point, I mean, being able to do things at the fraction of the cost, you can also show those results in a fraction of the time and be able to monitor what's actually going to return that ROI and derive that business value for the company. Okay, final question for you both, because this has been fascinating. And everything's moving so fast, so I'm very curious to hear what your answers are. When we're on this news desk at Boomi World 2026, what do you hope to be able to say then that you can't yet say today? Reji, I'm going to start with you. Yeah.
What I can say is that today we are employing agents and AI for our security, network security, and protecting us.
Yeah.
But by 2026, when I come back here, we will have agents and everything implemented, so that at least
across the org. Yeah.
A few of the processes are driven by agents. That is what we are aiming at now.
All right, I'm going to hold you accountable for that, Reji. What about you?
So for me, it's a gradual progression into agents driving hyper-automation, all right? Yeah. Because today you are just focused on integration, data, something. Bringing all of them together, the agents, and then driving hyper-automation for the organization. Across process, across data, across channels. That's what I want to see next year, and I think, I feel very confident that would be the case.
I think you might be right. I think agentic, obviously the buzzword this year, automation potentially being our buzzword bingo for 2026. Thank you both so much for coming to hang out.
It was a pleasure.
This has been a joy. I'm going to be thinking about you every time I see one of your brands now and I'm out in the wild and buying my stage clothes. It's so fun to kind of connect all of those dots. And thank you, Paul. This has been fantastic.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Savannah, for having us here today.
Thank you.
Yeah, truly, it's our pleasure. And thank all of you for tuning in wherever you might be. We're here in Dallas, Texas at Boomi World 2025. My name is Savannah Peterson. You're watching theCUBE, the leading source for enterprise tech news.